17th, 2014. 9 o'clock, we're here for our weekly board session. We're at the Courthouse Square, 555 Court Street Northeast in Salem. And we start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, so please join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, it appears, by the way we opened the meeting, we're in the holiday mood, but it's time to get serious. Our first item this morning is a presentation, a retirement certificate. That's not so good. The Senior Deputy Kevin Rao, Under Sheriff Troy Clausen is here. And if you'd come up and tell us about that. And thank you.
Do we have the certificate? Oh, they have the certificate, or do we? There it is, okay.
Good morning, Commissioners, and thank you for this opportunity to be here today to talk to you about, first off, a friend of mine, and second off, somebody who's contributed immensely to this community, not just in the sense of law enforcement and public safety, but somebody who has really given of themselves to educate our young children as a school resource officer during his career, and also transition into the mental health realm and probably become one of the front runners in the entire state and maybe on the entire West Coast with regard to crisis intervention training, with regard to mobile responses to crisis incidences, working with NAMI to talk about these types of issues and how they relate to law enforcement and what our folks can do better in response to dealing with individuals with mental health issues. A selfless individual who has sought no recognition for what he has done. I think this guy probably does more work around our community with less fanfare than anybody that I know. Kevin is he's a true asset to our office in this community, and he's going to be sorely missed. And I'm going to let him kind of talk a little bit about his career and where he's been at. It started at, it started with military service. It started with the Department of Corrections. That's when I first got to meet Kevin. I was actually working for the City of Independence as a police officer, and Kevin came over as a canine handler for DOC to help us out with some search warrants. And I think we ended up, instead of working, there was a Blazer playoff game going on, and we were probably paying more attention to the Blazer playoff game than we were to the house we were searching. But there were some good times. So, Kevin, you want to give us a little update on when you started and how long you've been with us, which is a long time.
A little over 20 years. But seriously, this is not about me. It's about the things that you've done and that the other folks in our office have done. I don't see this as my accomplishment. I see this as our accomplishments. But I appreciate everything you said, and I really appreciate your support. I did start in corrections in 1988. Prior to that, I was military police. I came to this office in 1994, and it's been amazing. I'm honored to have been trusted and entrusted with such responsibility as I have. And there are things that I've done while at the sheriff's office have shaped my life in ways you can't imagine. And you're among some of the people that I'm going to remain friends with for the rest of my life. And I appreciate, you being there. And, things will be great. What I've always said is that none of us are so important that when we leave tomorrow, if we leave tomorrow, somebody else is going to pick up the ball and run with it. And so I anticipate that's what's going to happen, and things are going to keep moving along.
Well, thanks for your service, Kevin. And we truly appreciate you guys recognizing, taking the time to recognize Kevin today. for his accomplishments for the county and the service that he's provided to our citizens and to the public safety community. And Kevin says that he's not going to be missed, that somebody can easily come in and replace him. It's going to be some big shoes to fill, so he will definitely be missed.
Wonderful. Questions or
Can I
comments?
say something?
Sure.
So I saw the email that you were retiring, and I went, "Oh no, I can't believe this." So wanted to figure out something that we could do to get you over here so that we could honor you. Kevin has not only, I mean, all the things that you've talked about, some of them I didn't know, but a lot of them I did know. He's been on my show, How Are the Children, and talked about what he's done as a resource officer and with the mental health programs. But I think for me, I had a friend who was in crisis, and Kevin came in and helped her so much. And that was the thing that allowed me to understand kind of deep down and personally what the court team, mental health team, can do. And not only took care and concern, I mean, he spent a very long time with her, and then when she didn't do what he said, came back and spent another very long time with her, but always reported in to me about how it was going, and we were working together and how it could help. And it just really demonstrates the good human being that he is, in addition to the job that he does every day. And I was so grateful for that. I just have to say, it just made such a huge difference in her life and in mine. And I would say, too, that in terms of picking up the ball and running with it, because, Troy, I agree with exactly what you said, it will be big shoes to fill. But in filling those shoes, what Kevin has done is he's set a standard that the person that fills those shoes is going to do it probably in a different way than the person that came before him, because we know so much more now about how to deal with people that have mental illness, and it's because of Kevin's work in that. And I know the policies and the standards and the training and just the approach has changed so much because of that work. And we are, like you said, just regarded in Marion County. I was down in Eugene for the Association of Oregon Counties conference, and there were at least 3 different instances where Marion County was highlighted with our work with people who are mentally ill in the public safety system. And that is your legacy, really, Kevin. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, we have a bit of a certificate, so if you'd meet us up front here, we'll give this to Kevin. All right. It says Kevin Rao, at retirement certificate, Senior Deputy Sheriff, in recognition of 20 years of dedicated and committed service to the citizens of Marion County, November 1994 to December 2014. This is a small token, and it meant a lot what Commissioner Carlson had to say about it. I know the good work you've done, and I'm sure you will be missed. I don't want to take anything away from you, but it's kind of related. Troy, would you come here a minute? And I wish we had something wonderful to give you, but I've been given a note. Come here. And it's related. It says, we invited Troy to participate in last week's awards presentation. This fall, he was awarded the 2014 Crisis Intervention Team Agency Executive at the annual CIT Regional Conference. So I kind of want to make note of that, and you pass on all your credit all the time. And maybe we know that Kevin deserves it, but I know who's doing a lot of things in the background. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you very much.
Well, if all the good ones leave, what's left? I guess it's us. All right, public comment, and we do have somebody this morning. Give him just a second to get here. Joe Fabro would like to address the board this morning. Come on up, and Joe should know how to run the microphones.
Good morning, Commissioners. Merry Christmas to everybody. Hope you all have a great Christmas. And I just wanted to come out to thank you for supporting the disabled or physically challenged people of our community, unfortunately, which I am one of. And I appreciate the fact that you care about the physically challenged people of this community. And I think that for me, I think it's been a great privilege to be with CCTV and to help do this Marion County Commissioners meeting. So, Kevin, I know you have a big shoes to fill with Patty's spot, but I know you're going to do a fantastic job. And Janet, I know you're doing a fantastic job. And Sam, it wouldn't be any fun without you guys being there, okay?
Try to think of something, Joe.
And so I got to tell you, you guys have been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun. I mean, it really has. Even though I'm behind the scenes, it's been a lot of fun. Thank you very much.
Well, Joe, thank you for all you and your crew do. I'll give you a little bit.
You're just a lot of fun.
I should have worked with him beforehand. I didn't know what he was going to say. Anyway, okay, public comment is done. Consent, and I'm not quite sure who last week,
It's me.
one line he had.
Yeah, and I get 3, so. All right. So, Mr. Chair, I would move today's consent calendar. Under Board of Commissioners, approve a resolution appointing John Latimer as the official representative of the Courthouse Square Condominium Association effective December 1st, 2014. And approve a memorandum of action electing John Latimer and Alan Pollock as directors of the Courthouse Square Condominium Association. Under Tax Collector, approve an order authorizing a property tax refund in the amount of $18,741.35 to Silver Falls Dermatology.
All right.
You sure you want to second it?
Yeah, I'm not sure that our chief administrative officer isn't already doing too much, but I'll second the motion.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the consent calendar this morning. Any further discussion? I don't hear any, so all in favor say aye.
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 Aye, motion passes. I'm gonna move around the action items a little bit. I'd like to, with your indulgence, to move finance to number 5. Mike insists he likes to attend all of our board meeting, and I don't want to deprive him of that opportunity. But we will start. Our first item is under Board of Commissioners, an annual rotation. Consider approval of an order appointing Janet Carlson as chair, Kevin Cameron as vice chair, and Sam Brentano as second vice chair of the Marion County Board of Commissioners. I don't know that it needs a lot of explanation, but Bruce, your name's on it if you wanted to say something, or John. Either of you? No. Yes.
Well, Mr. Chair, it's customary every year and by statute that you rotate who acts as chair for the year and who acts as vice chair among your members. And this is before you to set that up in advance so that beginning January, you can hit the ground running.
And the effective date, Bruce, just so.
Takes effect, it's effective for January of 2015.
First Monday.
The first Monday.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I thought we'd get this taken care of quite a while ago, but this is the official rotation now that we're all going to be sworn in. So, Mr. Chair, I'll move that we approve an order appointing Commissioner Carlson as chair, myself as vice chair, and the chair as the second vice chair of the Marion County Board of Commissioners.
And I'll second the motion. Maybe just add a little explanation if anyone is listening. And we don't elect a chair in Marion County as they do in some counties. We appoint a chair amongst the membership, and in Marion County, it's been our tradition to rotate that chair. So I would move up, and Sam would move to the third position, then Kevin moves up to the second position. The reason we have a first vice chair and a second vice chair is so that in the event that a plat needs to be signed or leadership is needed in the board office, each one of us has one of those positions. So the other thing that I say every year, but I'll say it again this year, is that being the chair of the board is not the same as being the chair of a legislative committee, for example, or the Speaker of the House or whatever. There's no special authority that comes with that other than you get a little bit more work, right? You have to sign a few more things. In some instances, you're the one that kind of has to think, well, maybe we ought to have this presentation or do that thing, although each commissioner contributes to that. And I think you get the mail first. So that is another
Yeah, I know there's been a hang-up
honor
this
of
year.
being the chair. So
It's probably good that I've been getting it last.
All right. So there's been a motion and a second, is that correct?
yes, I seconded it.
All right, any further discussion? I just have one thought. I hope a year from now, after you've been chair, Joe describes you as fun. That would,
It will never happen, but thanks anyway.
all right. All right.
She is.
Now call a question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. And then if we can, we'll move to the third item under health. Consider approval of an order appointing Dr. Deborah Carlson to the Marion County Health Advisory Board for a term ending December 31st, 2018. Rod Calkins, Kathy Crocker, and Rod, if you'd go ahead.
Commissioners, good morning. I'm glad to be here this morning. I had a little bit of car difficulty on the way down here and had to go back, get a even more reliable old beater car to get here. Also, Patrick Vance, who is chair of our Health Advisory Board, usually tries to make it when we have a new member up for appointment. He unfortunately had some surgery recently and is laid up for a while. So I'd like to introduce Deborah Carlson to you. For those of you who don't know her, Dr. Carlson is a child psychiatrist here in Marion County. She's worked in a variety of venues. And I think that in addition to her skills in a technical sense in terms of healthcare, she brings with her, she's a parent and an advocate for individuals here in our county to make sure that their health care is better. Dr. Carlson has worked, obviously, as a psychiatrist in mental health. She also is closely aligned with trying to coordinate mental health care and primary health care at the moment. And she's consulted with organizations such as the Mid-Valley Behavioral Health Care Network. And so we're very fortunate to have her interested in this board. And the board enthusiastically endorsed her candidacy to you. And I do need to point out that she has a somewhat checkered past, though. She has worked for the health department at one point in her career. And actually, I think, Debbie, we were leaving about the time I got here, about 11 years ago. So I think the residents of Marion County would be well served by having her expertise and advocacy on the board.
Go ahead.
Dr. Carlson comes to us with a variety of experience, as you see. She also states in her application as a Mexican American her passion for the Latino population being underserved. And I think that will come with great assistance to the board. And she just, I've just met her this morning, but she just seems so positive. She seems very enthusiastic to take on this role, and we're glad for her service. We'll let her say a few words about herself.
Please.
Thank you. And I am really enthusiastic and concerned about the state of just health in the state in general and our county in particular, since I live here and am served and serve the folks in this community served by and serve them. My husband is a pediatrician here in town as well, and so daily I hear about the the struggles that the primary care docs have in serving their struggling families, and trying to figure out how to bring the gaps in we've got a lot of resources here in our area. I think we're really lucky that way, and I think just trying to have an awareness of the services that are there and have them coming together to work synergistically, I think is what I've been working to do, and I'm interested in doing. I am Mexican American. My mother is from Mexico, and come from a poor background and things. So, I also homeschooled our kids, and so our homeschooling pals are not doctors and things. They're regular people who are struggling, even though they're working 2 jobs and still trying to raise their kids. And they're good people, and we've got a lot of good things here, and just trying to bring them together. That's what I'm here for.
Great. Questions, comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It was good to see you last night at the Health Advisory Committee, and welcome to the team.
Thank you.
And yes, thank you very much for being willing to step forward. I do remember your name, Carlson. Don't think we're any relation. Maybe
No relation.
way back in Sweden somewhere. Your husband's family
Husband,
and my husband's family were connected somehow. But I think your expertise will be a great contribution, great addition to the Health Advisory Board. So appreciate your service.
All right, a motion for approval then?
That's I would move we approve an order appointing Dr. Deborah Carlson to the Marion County Health Advisory Board for a term ending December 31st, 2018.
Second.
Okay, it's moved and second, approving the order placing Dr. Carlson on the County Health Advisory Board. Any further discussion? I don't hear any. I might just add, thank you for coming in. Frankly, the copy didn't tell me very much. You couldn't read it. But I could see certainly a connection, and I'm so happy that you came in and an opportunity to meet you. Anything else? And call a question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes again. Thank you, and
Thank you.
good luck.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Next item is under Public Works. We consider approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the Fargo Interchange Service District for a loan of $120,000 for upgrading a sewer pump station. Alan Haley, and go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioners, Alan Haley, Public Works. The Fargo Interchange Service District is up in the Aurora Interchange and serves basically that interchange for customers. Back when we formed the district, there was a unanimous vote amongst the 11 owners that any improvements down the road would be paid by the owners of record at the time the improvements were required. So hence we don't have a slush fund made up to actually make the improvements that we need right now to the pump station, which is currently, it's reaching the end of, has reached really the end of its life. So this loan is to cover that amount, and the current owners of the district, which are now numbered 23, are responsible through their sewer fees to pay this loan back. It'll be over a 7-year period. The other thing, though, I will be doing is the original infrastructure loan will be coming due here next year, and after that is done, we are going to move ahead with actually creating a slush fund, a maintenance fund, so to speak, for the district for long-term repairs. The district is almost built out, so it's not that new owners would be coming in necessarily, except for someone to sell. And I think it's a far more prudent efforts on our part that we make sure we have this kind of money in our bank account, so to speak. So today, the intergovernmental agreement is before you for approving a loan for Fargo to replace the pumps, replace in the pump station and the electrical panel. They are original equipment, except one of the pumps. So they've served us for over 20 years, and I'm here for any questions.
Other questions? I just had one, Alan. So everybody's in agreement. You haven't really said that. Nobody's, or have they been contacted of this?
The current owners?
Yes.
Yes, there was actually some real interest in our budget last year, and I sent out a letter to everyone, letting them know, here's what the conditions were. It's a very expensive district, so when you add another $120,000 loan to it, the price, excuse me, the price for you to have a toilet goes from like $300 to $400 a month. So it's very expensive. So I sent a letter out to all the owners, letting them know what it was, and have conferred with a couple of them that information has got out to all of them.
All right.
You
Go
just-
ahead. If you got a question. go
Yeah,
ahead.
he just raised a question. So I'm paying based on the toilets that I have? My fees in that district?
It's kind of what I'm saying is an example.
Okay.
So you're paying to have sewer service, but there are some customers that have no more than simply a toilet.
Right, so it's, in other words, it's based on the flow, though, that's coming out of that particular location, not by the utility that's actually there.
The sewer fee is based on a small amount of the flow. That's about a third of the bill.
Okay,
The other 2/3 of the bill are basically the infrastructure that's in place.
thank you.
So,
Ready for motion?
I am.
Yeah,
Please.
Mr. Chair, I'll move approval of intergovernmental agreement with the Fargo Interchange Service District for a loan of $120,000 for upgrading a sewer pump station.
I'll second the motion.
That's moved and second, approving $120,000 for Fargo Interchange Service District Sewer Pump Station. Further discussion? I don't hear any. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Alan.
Thank you, Commissioners.
The next item is under the sheriff. We consider approval of a resolution amending the Marion County Jail Capacity Management Plan. But before I go, is Sheriff Myers expected to come, or? No, myself. Wonderful. All right. Troy Clausen, Commander Schultz, go ahead as soon as you're ready.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, thank you again for allowing us to come before you this morning. We're here today to ask for the Board of Commissioners approval to increase our Sheriff's Office Capacity Management Plan out at the jail. The Jail Capacity Management Plan was amended back on November 3rd, 2014, and decreased the capacity at the Marion County Jail by 5 inmates, from inmate population of 415 inmates to 410 inmates. This 5 inmate decrease was caused by the loss of funding from one-time state sources that had come from the Department of Corrections. This loss of capacity has negatively impacted jail operations and also impacts local law enforcement agencies with the amount of obvious inmates that we can hold and process at the jail. Based on the types of crimes and situations that are occurring in each of our local communities. It is requested, therefore, from the board to increase the capacity at the jail back to 415 inmates. Increasing the capacity back by these 5 beds will allow for the incarceration of additional inmates, increase efficiencies at the jail, and assist local law enforcement with some of the issues that we're facing. Quite frankly, we didn't want to reduce the jail by the 5 beds back in November, but we had to due to the funding sources. It's now become aware that those beds are necessary, and looking over and scrutinizing our budget, I noticed that the earmark for the budget on this is an annual amount of close to $86,000. That was the preliminary figure, and we now know that after some further research, that for the 5 beds themselves, it's not an increase in personnel at all. The personnel will remain the same. It's going to be a slight increase in materials and services, and what we've actually been able to figure out is that amount is roughly $35,000 per year, not $86,000 per year. So based on going back over our historical data and the cost associated with having those inmates, we know that it's going to be around that $35,000 mark, not the $86,000 mark. I brought Commander Schultz along with me today as well, if there's any questions with regard to operational issues at the jail and what this means for us. Realistically, the 415 is the maximum capacity that we can be at with GPOD being down and closed still. There's no additional room for us to move within the current infrastructure and the way that the building's designed. 415 is where we're at a maximum point, and the sheriff wanted both Kevin and I to emphasize that if we need additional beds at the jail, eventually we're going to have to look at the reopening of GPOD in order to do that, because this does bring us to our maximum capacity for population control there at the jail. Kevin, would you like to add anything to that?
No, the undersheriff's actually correct. When we say 415 beds for 415 inmates, we still have some beds available, but taking into consideration what we would consider special needs inmates. I know the commissioners, we had the privilege of touring you through the facility on December 2nd, and there are situations where we have medical needs inmates, mental health needs, and disciplinary needs, and of course we do have a few extra beds, but we need to have those few extra beds as flexibility for those special needs inmates, because we can't necessarily double bunk inmates up in certain cells based on those needs.
Questions? Go.
Yes, well, thank you for bringing this forward. I think we first became aware of this a few months ago at a Community Corrections Board meeting, and had a discussion then about, so this is an incremental shift back to where we were. We had some outside money, right, that was paying for this previously, and then when that money went away, the idea was that we had to shut down those 5 beds, and so I think we began exploring with our budget officer and others in the board office how we might be able to move that back. So it's heartening to hear that it's not as much as we had thought initially. I guess one of my questions is then, is this money coming through just, it's within the sheriff's budget and you're adjusting things around, or is there actually a supplemental budget that requests that the sheriff's office was going to bring forward for this?
Great question, Commissioner. We are hopeful that we're going to be able to absorb this within our current budget that's been allocated for 14-15, and as we get closer to the third supplemental, if there's an issue with the additional costs that were there to bring these individuals on board, because obviously, as you know, the medical costs are the part that we can't control. So we're not sure how that will impact everything. We've done some really good things with regard to having inmates that are now out of our custody for longer than 24 hours in a hospital setting, that we're able to defer those costs to Medicaid on a lot of those. And we've had 9 of those individuals since the beginning of July through September that have spent time at the hospital longer than 24 hours. And with that, we've been able to save roughly anywhere from $100,000 to $150,000 because of that. So there are some ways that we're working within our budget to absorb those costs. And if not, we'll come back to the board and talk about that.
Right, that's excellent. And then I think in that presentation, what we heard was that there are some kind of additional steps beyond these 5 beds, but short of reopening GPOD, a position, I think, at the work center, a couple positions anyway, to help expand the capacity of the staff out there, which I think we are encouraging you through those discussions to bring those to as a decision package in your budget. The cost that I'm recalling for opening GPOD, I think, was $2.3 million. So it's not a small number.
You are
and
correct.
So the question is that we're going to have to figure out a way to reopen it so that we can sustain it, because the last thing we want to do is open it, close it, open it, close it. So we really need to make sure that our budget can either absorb that or look to the community perhaps to help us reopen that GPOD so that we can have that space in the jail for public safety. So that's really important.
Yes, I would agree with you, and I think you've hit every point that we've talked about with regard to that, and that is our plan, to bring together a decision package with regard to enhancing not only the things that we're doing at the jail, but also at the work center, specifically with transitional programs and reentry issues, getting some folks out of our local control population supervised a little bit better, and then making a healthier return to the community.
Great, thank you.
All right.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I would move approval of the resolution amending the Marion County Jail Capacity Management Plan.
I'll second.
All right, it's moved and seconded to approve the resolution that amends the Marion County Jail Capacity Plan. Any further discussion? Just to say thank you. I see you've tried to make it work and also realize the impacts, and I expect that made you even bore down harder, but we're able to get by for a while, and I think this is good news for the county. Anything else?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I just want to say thank you for the condition of the jail on our tour, and I was really impressed with how clean and sanitary and safe. It just was a really good example of a facility that is how many years old? 20, 25? 25 years old.
Yes, 1989.
Yeah, great job to you and the crew that takes care of it. Thank you.
Commissioner, I appreciate those comments because I know for a fact that a lot of the frontline staff take a lot of pride in what they do every day there, to include keeping the appearance up in that jail facility. So I'll certainly echo your comments to the rest of the frontline staff. I appreciate that.
All right, anything else? Then I'll call a question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes again. Thank you both.
Thank you very much.
Our last item then is back to finance. We consider approval of several orders that adopt the following administrative budget policies: general fund transfers, modification of net working capital, and use of one-time and unpredictable revenues. Says Jeff White, but Richard Meinecker, you're here. It's very nice of you to not make everyone sit and listen to one-time expenditures, but go ahead.
It's possible someone listened.
We're going to. I'm anxious to give it a
Well,
try.
good morning, then, the commissioners, and I'm glad to be here. Yeah, I forgot to bring Mr. White. I knew I'd left something behind, but we'll do fine. These three administrative policies, and two of them have procedures that go with them, were presented to the board as members of the Budget Committee on November 4th. So there has been some review by the board as well as the Citizen Budget Committee members. So I'll just briefly recap what these policies are all about. General fund transfers to other funds. The policy is that all general fund transfers that provide either total or supplemental funding to programs and services of other funds are subject to reversion of unexpended balances of the general fund at fiscal year end. This is particularly true when dollars are for specific purposes. So I'll give you an example. If a department has maybe a decision package to hire a new person for $100,000, and the position is not filled, is only filled for 3/4 of the year, there would be $25,000 savings theoretically. So rather than transfer $100,000 to the department, we would true that up at the end of the year, determine what the actual cost was for that earmarked money, and only transfer $75,000. So in effect, we would save that 25. That example is pretty clear cut. It gets a little more muddied sometimes when there's commingled monies, particularly like in health, but nevertheless, we do track and ask the departments to track where the general fund money is going. And we decided it's time to get this in writing to do a little better job of telling the departments in writing how this process works, so we don't have to have the continual discussion every year of what our rules are, which is true of all policies. We do need them in writing, so we don't, our practices may reflect our policies, but the policies probably should come first. The second policy is, do you want to do these one at a time and approve them by board
Would you
order?
go ahead and just go through them all, and then we'll try to make one motion approving each of them?
Okay. Second one is modification of net working capital budget. Departments are required to submit supplemental budget requests to modify adopted budget net working capital up to actual net working capital after the actual has been calculated and recorded in the financial information management system. You can recall from that budget committee meeting, we gave some examples, and that was the impact of departments particularly not recognizing in their budgets that their net working capital available is considerably less than what they budgeted, and the harm that it can do if they manage as if those funds were available. They could possibly have a net loss for the year in the whatever level those funds are at, fund or program. And we would like to have this done so departments, it is readily apparent to all, us that review those and the departments that manage, that their level of funding is truly at a different level than they began the budget year with. The third one is about one-time only revenues, and we call it really one-time only and unpredictable revenues, and the use of them. The general policy is that there shall be restrictions on the use of one-time or unpredictable revenue for ongoing expenditures, and the proposed use, if any, shall be clearly identified in the budget. You may recall that the example, and it may have been the more extreme example, but that I gave at the budget committee meeting was the state chapter 530 forest rehabilitation revenues and how hard they are to predict, even working with the state forester who changes their revenue projections significantly for future revenues from year to year to year, and it's hard to follow and hard to know, and they're in a business that's that it's even difficult for them to predict timber cuts, contracts, when even when they have a contract, when the timber will be cut in terms of the flow of money to the county, and to the fact that given that it is so volatile and there are so many spikes, both high and low over a period of time, that we would, under our policy and our practice, budget at a sort of a base level, a lower level, and anything that would come in above that is fine, but would still be part of the unpredictable and one time, if you will, revenues that would be restricted to their use. Departments are, under this policy, required to identify those revenues and specify what they would be used for in terms of not committing them to longer-term use, not committing to hiring personnel, for example, beyond the life of how long that special revenue would be available. And with that, I think that's a synopsis of those three policies.
All right. Questions, John Latimer?
Mr. Chair, as you know, we have been working over the last many years to improve our budget process. And a lot of the thanks go to Rich for his help as we've done a lot better with our budget. What a lot of people don't understand, and I know you do, but it's just adopting a budget isn't the only important thing we do. It's managing the budget throughout the fiscal year. And budget execution is at times an art, but it also requires constant vigilance on how the dollars are being used. And so we've developed a lot of policies around how we implement the budget, not just how we adopt it. So these will help. And I wanted to thank Rich for his help on this because he does a great job.
All right. Any other questions or comments?
No, we had a chance, as he said, to, as Rich said, to hear about these in the Budget Committee. And I always welcome it when we have policy so that we can put down in writing the things that we have been sort of traditionally doing. I think it helps clarify for all of the employees of Marion County and for the public how we're managing our financials, our finances and our budget. So I appreciate you bringing this forward.
Mr. Chair, thank you, Rich. You left Jeff behind today, but I saw you in the parking lot last night. You left something upstairs that you had to go back for. That wasn't Jeff, was it?
No, that was, well, I was going to say more important, but I better watch what I say. My cell phone, just my cell phone.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the orders adopting the following administrative budget policies, number 415, number 416, and number 417.
I'll second the motion.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the administrative budget policies just discussed for 15, 16, 17. Any further question, comments? I hear none. All in favor then say aye.
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 Aye, motion passes. Thank you, Richard. And Cynthia, you were ready to go to bail him out, but he got by. All right.
And if I don't see you until next year, happy holidays and
Yeah, Merry
best wishes.
Christmas.
And you too.
Did you get your cell phone?
All right, the last to do this morning then is to read the places we'll be together. Now, sometimes these pages go, well, these lists go 3 pages, and this is about a half. So it just shows, I guess, the holiday pace. Monday, the 22nd at 8:30, Commissioners' Calendar Review, Silverton Conference Room, 5th floor, 555 Court Street Northeast in Salem. That's followed in the same location. Monday, the 22nd, 9 o'clock, Management Update. And then that's followed also in the same location from 11 o'clock to 12, again, Monday, the 22nd, a Board of Commissioners Chief Administrator Officer meeting, executive session, if needed pursuant to ORS 1926602 ABFNI, and I think that's just about all of them. And then Monday, again, Silverton Conference Room at 3:30, a work session having to do with the Oregon Youth Authority 10-year plan. We will not be holding a board meeting next Wednesday. It'll be Christmas Eve, so there'll be one more, if I hear it right, one more fun meeting on the 31st of December. But while I'm speaking, I too would like to wish you all a Merry Christmas and hope everything continues good.
All the meetings get deadly serious after the first of
I'm
the year.
aware of that.
Am I in for a big change that I'm unaware of?
We
No,
kind
no,
of
no.
tried to break you in slowly, Kevin, but the pace picks up starting in 2015.
The fun chair and then the funnier chair next year.
I don't think so, but it could happen. John?
Well, yeah, we're in for a lot of fun next year. One of the things that struck me as we were talking about Kevin Rao and the service he provided was, if you remember, the last board session, we recognized 3 employees that were honored by the state, their state colleagues, for the work they do. And I think, I hope the people of Marion County understand that Marion County employees do lead in many respects in the various services that we provide. And Kevin was a good example of that. They don't just do their job, they lead and provide expertise that helps all of us in the state of Oregon. And I think we need to appreciate that. And it's demonstrated by Rich. Rich is kind of unheralded, but boy, he does so much for us as we manage the resources of the county, and I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Can I just tag on to that? We have a chance to go to the Association of Oregon Counties monthly and from time to time other meetings, and there have been a number of times when I'll hear a person from another county say, well, you know, you can't do this, or I think something's this way. And I'll say, well, in Marion County, we do X, Y, and Z. And I think we're able to kind of blaze new trails in Marion County through the work of our employees. And I mentioned this at another meeting, but I'll mention it here on legal counsel. Our legal counsel has led so many issues now in terms of, people saying, can I get a copy of that ordinance? Could you, help me understand, how you did this particular thing? Bruce is sitting here today, and I was reminded when you were talking, John, and I was thinking about how many things our employees do that are just so much on the cutting edge, that he reviewed the law around Senate Bill 6, and I had gone over and met with Senator Courtney's staff around that, and raised a bunch of issues. And when we came back, those were things that their legal counsel had not even considered at the legislature. So we have, really. So I think we have just excellent staff here, and I'm very, very honored to work with them.
I'll second the motion. Anything else? All right, let's call this meeting adjourned.